Thank you. All right, so welcome to the Conservation Commission meeting for the town of Norwood. It's January 6, 2021. This meeting is starting at 7:30 p.m. This meeting will be recorded for publication purposes. We are going to do a roll call of the commission members, starting with myself. Just say whether you're present or aye. Chris Capizio, aye. And let me see, next is Stephen Washburn's absent this evening, so he won't be saying anything. Peter Bamber?
Aye. Here.
John, thank you. John Gear?
Yeah.
Heather Miller?
Here.
Carly Rockland?
Here.
And Catherine Walsh.
Here.
Okay, thank you very much. Excited to get started tonight. Holly, did you want to introduce the introduce the query regarding today's events and whether everyone is comfortable to speak?
Yeah, so Chris and I were emailing a little bit right before the meeting started about whether, given the unrest in the nation's capital, we should continue with the meeting as usual. It seems like we have quite a number of people here, though, who are interested in attending the meeting this evening.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess just if anyone would like to object, or if anyone would like to state that they feel uncomfortable or would not like to move forward, you know, you're welcome to, particularly those members of the commission, you're welcome to speak up now. Okay, great, wonderful. So we're going to be beginning with several public hearings. The first is a request for determination of applicability.
Hi, this is Laurie Ellen. I'm here.
I'm sorry, we can't. I personally can't hear you. I think there might be an interruption in your internet connection. And also, we're going to first introduce the agenda. Okay. All right, wonderful, thank you. So we have a request for determination of applicability. In 2020-10, the applicant is Moderna LLC. The representative is here tonight, that's Benkim Patel. The description, I'm just gonna give a brief overview. Expansion of an existing building along with associated grading, landscaping and utilities outside of protected wetland areas and their buffer zones. I know that Benkim is here to speak tonight. However, Holly, did you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so to introduce the commission to this project, so Moderna came before a number of town staff and has already appeared before the planning board requesting permission to expand their building. They made this decision after being granted the emergency authorization for the COVID-19 vaccine, and the expansion is to help them increase their vaccine production capacity. The area of the expansion that is proposed is not within a wetland resource area or the buffer zone to a wetland resource area. However, the property has previously existing orders of conditions which require the applicant to come back before the commission for changes to the plot plan. And so that's why they're here before the commission tonight with the request for determination of applicability. They have already been granted an emergency certification by Mr. Washburn, the commission chair, to begin earthwork because of the immediate threat to public health and safety that was posed by the COVID-19 crisis. And so this request for determination of applicability is following the emergency certification, which has permitted the initial beginning of work.
Okay, thank you. And that certificate of that emergency certificate also needs to be ratified. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the commission can ratify the emergency certification today, and that emergency certification is only good for the first 30 days of work, where the request for determination of applicability will apply moving forward.
Thank you. Mr. Patel, would you like to introduce additional information?
Sure. Thank you, Chris. First, thank you to the commission for seeing us on such short notice. We really appreciate that. Hopefully everyone enjoyed their holidays. As Holly pointed out, this expansion that we're talking about is to a specific part of our process. And this will enable us to produce additional vaccine than we've already committed to the United States government. We're looking to add on to the northeast corner of the current building that we have in Norwood. It's the One Moderna Way location. And as Holly was pointing out, it is not within the wetlands and it is not within the buffer area. I'm going to introduce a little bit here colleagues that are here from PAR Corporation and from Cardinal and from IPS, the engineering firm and the construction management firm that are working with us to enable this project. But once again, thank you all for allowing us to be here at the very last minute here. And I will turn it over to colleagues, Brandon Barry, who's from PAR, Doyle Johnson, who's from IPS, and Brian Bonenfant from Cardinal. I think Brandon is going to lead the show. And then if there are questions, happy to answer those at any time. Thank you.
Certainly. So for the record, my name is Brandon Barry. I'm with PAR Corporation. We're the civil engineers for the project. As Holly had mentioned, this project has been before the commission just about 2 years ago for some fence work that was crossing over a brook and was approved. The order of conditions that was issued did require anything else working on the site to come back before the commission. So that's why we're here tonight. There are a few resource areas proximate to our site that I'll quickly touch base on just so the commission's aware. To the east of our site, just over 325 feet away, is a couple wetland areas associated with the brook that runs along to the east there. We're separated by about 300 feet and also a roadway, Tech Drive, that's between us and there. So there's a lot of buffer between our site and the wetland areas. And then the resource area that's on our site to the west, we're almost 500 feet away from that, which was what the original order conditions was issued for. So there's really no impacts to any of the resource areas or their associated buffers as part of this work. The work that we're proposing is within existing areas that have been disturbed as part of the construction on the site. A lot of what we're going to be doing is actually taking some pavement and concrete area that was used for delivery and vehicular access, converting that to the building and landscaping. The changes to the site, both landscaping I just referenced and some of the changes to pedestrian walkways, will result in almost 700 square feet of new pervious area, which will make improvements to the rate of stormwater that's generated, and then replacing a lot of that pavement and concrete area for vehicles with roof, which is a cleaner type of runoff. We'll also be making improvements to the quality of runoff generated by our site. So overall, I think from a commission standpoint, it's a pretty simple project. We're not making any direct impacts to any of the wetland resource areas or their buffers. We're working within disturbed areas. We'll be providing appropriate erosion controls around the limit of disturbance, and we're making improvements to the rate and quality of runoff anticipated by the site. I can certainly provide any more detail or answer any questions or respond to any comments the commission may have.
Mr. Bamber?
So through you, Ms. Jones, everything's outside the resource area and outside of our purview, correct?
I believe that was to Ms. Jones, but yes, that is correct. That really the reason that we're here is because our original order of conditions stipulated
Right,
that
I understand that, but I just wanted her to confirm that for us.
Yeah, everything is outside of resource areas, buffer zones.
So essentially, there's two things. Am I correct in assuming that if I was to make a motion for a negative determination, that would be one thing, and then we would need to do it ratify of the emergency as a second request?
Yep.
I'm prepared to make a motion unless other commission members have questions.
And I also wanted to ask if anyone from the general public was here for this particular hearing. No?
Then I'd make
Okay.
a motion for a negative determination.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right, we're going to go through the list for to determine all those in favor. Starting with myself, Chris Capizio, aye. Next is Peter Bamber,
Aye.
John Gear,
Aye.
Heather Miller,
Aye.
Carly Rockland, Carly Rockland,
I'm having technical difficulties. Aye.
oh, okay, yeah, we'll use a thumbs up in the place of, and Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like all those in favor has passed, so we can move forward from here. Holly, was there anything else to summarize?
Well, the emergency
No.
ratification.
Oh, do we have to vote on that as well?
Yeah, that's later on in
Okay.
the agenda, but we can take it out of order right now to move to ratify that emergency certification.
Sure.
I'd make the motion to ratify the emergency certification.
I second.
A second? Okay. All right, we're going to go through, and all those in favor, Chris Capizio, aye. Peter Bamber,
Aye.
John Gear,
Aye.
Heather Miller,
Aye.
Carly Rockland,
Aye.
and Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Okay, so now both of those have been satisfied. Thank you, Mr. Bamber, for doing the ratification now. And are we all set, Holly? Is there anything more?
I think that's it. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Thanks very much, Mr.
thank
Patel
you.
and Mr. Barry.
Thank you, Moderna.
Yes, thank you, Moderna. Keep working out there. Get this thing going.
So
Once again, thank you to the Norwood folks and for the immense partnership you've shown over the last 3 or 4 years. Thanks again and have a great night.
All right,
you.
have a great night. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, we have a notice of intent, DEP file number 251-05XX and 2020-09. The applicant is the Norwood Conservation Commission. The representative is Chris Hirsch, Massachusetts Department of Ecological Restoration, and a brief description: the removal of Mill Pond Dam and stream location and restoration to restore ecological function and habitat connectivity to Trap Hole Brook. Take it away, Holly.
I'm gonna actually let our representative go first on this one,
Okay.
and then see if I have any additional comments. Mr. Hirsch, do you want to go ahead?
Sure, yes, thank you very much. And thank you to the commission for hosting us tonight. So my plan for the presentation was to give a brief introduction for the project, talk about some of our goals, introduce the project team, as well as give a brief history of the project for some of the new commissioners and the new agent who have joined in on the project now. And I'll just start off with a job update. So if you remember the last time that I came before you, I was Chris Hirsch of the Neponset River Watershed Association. I've now taken a new position with Mass DER, Division of Ecological Restoration, but I'm continuing to work on this project just on sort of the other side of the fence in a different role in the project team. So to update you on the project team, many of whom are on this call, there are myself representing Division of Ecological Restoration, as well as Joseph Gould and Nick Wildman, representing NEPRA, and taking on my role at NEPRA is Jennifer Rogers. Representing the Natural Resource Damages trustees is Michelle Craddock from Mass DEP, Gerard Martin from Mass DEP, and Molly Sperduto from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The engineering team working on this project is from Interfluve. Nick Nelson is the geomorphological architect, so sort of the brains behind the plans and kind of laying everything out. And Sarah Whiting is our engineer on record, and she's the one that crunches the numbers and makes sure that Nick's plans are actually feasible in reality. So to summarize, Trap Hole Brook is a tributary of the Neponset River, flows from Moose Hill Reservation in Sharon through Walpole and into Norwood, where it connects to the Neponset River, just downstream of the Norwood Gardens apartment complex. The brook itself is an outstanding cold water resource, contains large populations, reproducing populations of native brook trout, which is something that's becoming increasingly rare in this region, especially in eastern Massachusetts. And many people, including myself, consider Trap Hole Brook to be one of the best remaining trout streams in the greater Boston area. Recognizing this, the primary goal of our project is to improve the health and climate change resilience of Trap Hole Brook by restoring habitat connectivity, reestablishing natural sediment transport, and eliminating a source of excessive solar heating through the removal of the Mill Pond Dam and restoration of the historic stream channel through the former impoundment. Additional project goals include reducing flood risk to surrounding properties, the elimination of maintenance burdens associated with the derelict dam. And so next, I'm going to move into a little bit of the history of this project. For those of you who've been on the commission all the way through, and for the neighbors who've attended these meetings, please bear with me. I appreciate your patience. This is really for the benefit of the new members of the commission. So in 2017, the Natural Resource Damages trustees sent out a request for proposals for a restoration project in the Upper Neponset watershed. They had a settlement out of the Blackburn and Union site, Superfund site, to do restoration in that specific area. Neponset River Watershed Association proposed a watershed scale restoration of Trap Hole Brook because it is such an important and fragile resource in the area. That watershed-wide restoration included proposals for riparian restoration, stormwater management improvements, the replacement of undersized culverts, as well as dam removal of the Mill Pond Dam. In 2018, the trustees published their draft restoration plan, which included NEPRA's Trap Hole Brook watershed proposal and identified the removal of the Mill Pond Dam as a priority action for restoring Trap Hole Brook. Shortly thereafter, NEPRA began contacting the various landowners that live along the pond to garner support for the project in an attempt to secure letters to support in the aid for an application with priority project status with Mass DER. After many letters, phone calls, dining room table meetings in each of the neighbors' homes, they've agreed to that they were interested in allowing us to pursue this project further, as well as to solicit the help of Mass DER. In October of 2018, I presented this same idea to the Norwood Conservation Commission, who voted to sign a letter of support to pursue the project further and to apply for priority project status with Mass DER. The application to DER was successful and we were granted priority project status in January of 2019. Interfluve was then hired by the project team to do the site survey, sediment sampling, and develop the 40% design plans for the project. A public kickoff meeting was held at the Norwood Library in June of 2019. This was open to the public to gather input to incorporate into our initial design plans. Among those in attendance were the neighbors, members of the Norwood Conservation Commission, and members of the Norwood Trails Committee, as well as others from the public and the press. Upon completion of our first round of design, we held another meeting with the neighbors in November of 2019 to present our findings and proposed actions, as well as to gather feedback on those. We presented the 40% design plans and initial sediment data to the Conservation Commission in December of 2019. And the feedback that we received from both of those meetings was incorporated into our next round of design. Coordinated directly with the Norwood Conservation agent, Al Getz at the time, to put together an expanded environmental notification form for the project in March of 2020, and met with the Conservation Commission again to present our draft EENF for review and approval to be submitted on behalf of the town and approved by the Conservation Commission. Shortly after receiving the Commission's approval, we submitted the EENF to MEPA and successfully secured a certificate for the project. In April of 2020, we held a virtual 75% design kickoff meeting. So that was a kickoff for the next phase of design. Neighbors, Norwood conservation agents, and members of the Conservation Commission were all invited to attend. Based on the feedback that we had received in earlier rounds and at that meeting, we conducted additional sediment testing to better match sediment testing that was done in 1999. And there were also questions and comments that we had about the channel alignment. So we had our engineers figure out several other potential channel alignments. The potential channel alignments and results of the sediment tests have been presented to the Neighbors and Conservation Commission. And in June 2020, a preferred channel alignment was agreed upon by the major stakeholders. In the 75% design plans were then completed in June 30th of 2020. And we are now in the process of going through Section 404, Chapter 91, Section 401, and Wetland Protection Act NOI review, which brings us to today. So at this point, I can either turn it over to Holly, or I was planning to turn it over to Sarah, and I think Nick Nelson's on this at Interfluve, so they can go over some of the project specifics and how they relate to the Ecological Restoration Limited project application that we have before you right now.
Let's keep going with Sarah and Nick.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we have a lot of representation here this evening, so we'll start with your team first, and then probably move toward feedback from the Conservation Commission, questions from the Conservation Commission, and then open it up to the public, and follow a hand raising protocol so that we can ensure equitable time.
Okay, that sounds great. So Sarah, do you want to take it away?
Sure. Thank you, Chris. Before I speak, can everybody hear me? And if at any point you can't hear me, just raise your hand and I'll stop and fix something. I'm just going to give a very broad introduction here of the project and our role as the vision and the nuts and bolts, the engineering of the project. So a very broad view, and then I'm here to answer any questions you might have as well. So this restoration project involves removing the Mill Pond Dam, taking out the stone and masonry structure at the outlet, taking out some of the earth that's currently impounding the Mill Pond and the sediment behind it. We're also planning to reconstruct a meandering sinuous channel between the former dam and the Sumner Street bridge or culvert. I might refer to it as either, but when I say Sumner Street, I'm talking about the bridge there. We're going to be designing and putting into our design plans a few technical items to protect the Sumner Street Bridge and to protect some of the stormwater outfalls nearby. And when we build the new channel between the former dam and the Sumner Street culvert, we're planning on creating a channel bed that's created out of reused cobble materials and stone materials and some imported cobble materials and stone materials to protect the riverbed. And when we reconstruct the banks, we're going to be using some salvaged large wood from the tree clearing operations to stabilize the meanders, and we'll be using fabric to stabilize the banks while it revegetates. There is a revegetation plan for any of the disturbed areas, and we'll be revegetating those with both wetland and upland vegetation as appropriate once construction is complete. This project will take place in many of the resource areas that are within your jurisdiction as part of this review process. We're in riverfront area. There'll be some impact to bordering vegetated wetlands. Mill Pond itself right now is all land underwater, and the location where we're proposing to build the channel, will no longer be land underwater. It'll transition to some land underwater, but then, adjacent riparian corridor. As part of the dam removal process, we'll be reducing the footprint of the bordering land subject to flooding, which is good news. It makes the floodplain a little bit smaller and moves it away from the residential properties. And then with respect to local Norwood resource areas and areas of concern, a lot of this work both construction and staging and access will take place within the UBA, the 25-foot wetland offset. So I just want to acknowledge that we won't be building anything in that area, and the plan is to restore it and revegetate it afterwards. The good news is that once we're done, the entire site, both the access area and the project area, will remain within the protected riverfront corridor. The land underwater will transition to bordering vegetated wetland and upland, consistent with a complex riparian corridor. And one easy I to dot and T to cross is that by removing a lot of the sediment that has built up over time behind the Mill Pond Dam, the compensatory storage calculations where we can demonstrate that we're increasing cut within the floodplain indicate that there will be a net cut, so that we don't have to worry about compensating elsewhere. We are going to be, the plan is to access the site from the north side. There's that sewer main line that comes off of Sumner Street and goes through the William Peswick Park. Primary access and staging will be along that easement, which is currently cleared. It's grassy, it's pleasant. Staging areas will be adjacent to it. And then as far as utilities and protections, I think that the two main utilities that we keep an eye on would be, since we're going to be accessing the site on top of that sewer main, that's in the forefront of our minds to make sure we protect that, which we're reasonably sure will just require protecting the manholes and the rims. The pipe is deep enough that we shouldn't have any impacts with any large equipment. And then there's a few stormwater drainage features along that access route that we'll be keeping an eye on and protecting afterwards. So I've been part of, and Nick and I have both been part of, with Chris and the rest of the DER team, some conversations with the local residents. And so I would like to invite anyone here who has concerns about the project, the technical aspects, to ask any questions. I'll do my best to answer them clearly. And then with respect to post-construction, the way that Interfluve typically designs our dam removal and restoration projects is we get in, we take out the dam, we rebuild, stabilize really quickly, but with the vegetation, that component, the vegetation plan is very important, and often within one growing season, it almost appears like no one's ever been there. And so that's our goal with revegetation. And it's generally successful, but we like to keep an eye on it. And I'm open for questions. And if you have any questions about the vision, so I'm the engineer, I do the math to make sure that we're not increasing flooding or putting any undue pressure on any of the bridges or structures or stormwater management infrastructure. But the alignment and the layout of the channel that we have designed is based on geomorphic characteristics of Trap Hole Brook upstream and downstream. We've walked up and down, and we've seen the pools, and we've seen the cobbles, and we've seen, there's a lot of freshwater springs that come in and keep it cold. And so the way that we've designed the sinuous nature of the plan and the pools and the drops are commensurate with what you see upstream and downstream. And, it should look like no one's been there when we're done.
Well, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate you. I appreciate you speaking. I just want to offer Nick the opportunity. I know that everyone is really eager to get started in the conversation piece, but Nick, is there anything new that you'd like to contribute? Is there anything that we haven't heard yet that we should hear before we start the Q&A?
Yeah, thanks, Kristen, and thanks, Sarah. You covered that really well. I think just 2 points, I think, getting on what Sarah was just talking about the construction period and post-construction period. During construction, if you haven't seen a dam removal before or a river restoration project before, it looks messy when you're out there. We're not used to seeing excavators in a river or in our wetland resources, and so it's a little unnerving sometimes. But this is something that is happening across the state with these types of projects, and it does it's going to be muddy a little bit out there when we take out that dam and draw down the water. There's going to be exposed ground. That is all normal and part of this process. As Sarah said, it vegetates very quickly afterwards. And we typically have in the contract documents with the construction crews, we have typically a warranty for the plants for 3 years. And so there's this period in which they come back and maintain, replace plants that die, make sure that there is full coverage of vegetation throughout the site and there aren't invasive plants coming into the area. So that's typically part of the process as well. Thank you, Kristen.
Okay, thank you. As is consistent with our format, we typically open the floor next to the Conservation Commission members if they have any questions, hopefully through this process as well. Any questions that are had by the community that's here is also co-answered or answered in part. And then we definitely want to honor everyone who's here from the community and make sure that they're heard. So to start, Conservation Commission members, are there any pending questions or pressing questions that you'd like to ask at this time? Okay, so Ms. Rockland?
Can you hear me? Okay. Small questions. I was reading about the plant species that you're intending to put in, and curious about two of them. One of them is American elm and the other green ash, and wondering about their susceptibility to diseases and insects. Wondering if that's been considered, if alternatives have been considered to those two.
And Carly, to whom are you speaking directly? Would you like Mr. Hirsch to answer?
Sure. I guess who.
Whoever is in charge of that particular domain.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Chris. I don't know who wrote the vegetation part.
I can speak to that a little bit, Sarah, if that works. Thanks, Carly. Great question. And to be clear, I'm a geomorphologist, so we have other ecologists that did put the planting plan together. Typically, what we are basing these plans on are what we find nearby and what survives well in these certain conditions. These species, I'd be very interested in your specific Norwood experience also, if you've had concerns in town about that. We have had some experience planting these elsewhere, and you know, they've grown fine over those first few years after construction. But certainly open to your experience with these species, and this planting list can certainly be adjusted if there are specific concerns from the commission on that.
I myself
thought that was the second part. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, the sound is delayed. I personally have not had experience with this, but I know green ash, there's the with the emerald ash borer, is it called? And then American elm disease. And I heard there's other species of elm that are more resistant to it. Green ash, I'm not sure what are alternate species. I just thought that should be considered.
That's a great point. We'll bring it up with our team and see what our ecologists think about that. Thank you for bringing that up.
All right, thank you.
Heather?
Thanks. I actually didn't have a question. I just wanted to express my appreciation for all of the work that's gone into this. I think it's a really exciting project, and the opportunities it presents for ecological restoration, climate resilience, and recognizing this really unique cold water fishery resource we have in Norwood are just really exciting. So I hope we can move it forward. Thank you all.
Mr. Bamber?
I would just like to echo Heather's statement. I've been following this since its inception and have been a big proponent of it. Thank you.
Would anyone else on the commission like to contribute a comment or ask a question at this time? Okay, so I'm going to open it up to the general public. I'd just like to ask that you raise your hand if you have something to say. If you're not presently speaking, to keep your microphone muted. I have barking dogs in my house, so I know what it's like. And also, I'll do my best to address you with your with the last name that's present on my screen. But if it's a mistake, I apologize. So, does anyone from the general public like to add a comment or contribute a question at this time? Mr. David? Mr. Kenneth David?
Yes, hello. I want to talk concerning, so my house is located at 260 Sumner, and I get all the rain flow and everything from the hill of Sumner. It all flows into my yard. And there is before they put in a temporary drain pipe, it was the elevation of the landscape was enough to provide accurate drainage, where not much would flood up. Since then, when they put the road in, everything backed up, and eventually they came down, they put a pipe in. The pipe doesn't really work that well. I know on the plans that you do have plans on removing it and redoing it. I just want to make sure that an adequate pipe is put in there. And the other issue that I had was the existing pipe there. On the outlet of that pipe, there's so much overgrowth, like you guys were saying, that stuff grows like wildfire back there. And me and my wife have to go over there constantly and dig it out and cut saplings down and constantly try to free it. When we bought the house, we actually went through a lot with the conservation to keep things the way they wanted it and make sure we were following the rules and everything. So we weren't allowed to use any sort of PVC pipe drainage or anything like that. It all had to be natural slope. So I just want to voice my opinion on just making sure that after the project's done, my backyard, because as of right now, my backyard just fills up. It just gets flooded. So I would like that issue to be resolved, if possible.
Does a member of DER want to respond?
Yes, so I think, like you said, we had marked that that drainage and make sure that we're not going to be impacting that at all. And then where it currently kind of flows into the woods, we're actually going to extend that channel to the stream so that it has a better flow through there. Sarah, did you want to talk at all about what we're planning to do for? This is the drainage that's closer to Sumner Street, not the outfall that's sort of within that side channel. If you had any specifics to add to that, but it is definitely on our radar.
So Chris, can I just mention, I don't know if you guys have actually been here or seen it when it rains, because the amount of water that actually comes through that bridge, under the bridge and into the pond is amazing, the amount of water. So I'm having a hard time envisioning that this channel that's getting dug in is going to actually suffice the water flow.
The pipe right now.
Yeah, I know, but I took pictures of the last rainstorm and all the water that collects down. I have pictures of all that. My backyard is a swamp right now because it can't drain. So I'm really concerned. I don't know if you guys have actually, I took pictures if you guys want to see them. if you've seen how much water volume is actually still seeping down our backyard into that area.
I'd be happy to look at those pictures for sure. I have been out there. I was out there the day after the really big storm that flooded the hospital.
Yeah.
So I have seen how crazy that stream can get.
Yeah. All right.
That
was one of our
engineering
concerns.
team. Yeah, Interfluve ran their models and they've sized it to be able to pass any storm that's foreseeable, beyond an act of God. But I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what went into the sizing, Sarah, to ease their mind a little bit. I'm certainly not an engineer.
I'm more concerned with what kind of material are you going to use on the outlet of that drainage pipe? Is it going to be crushed stone? Is it just going to be natural?
Well, right now on the plans, we've left that open. The way that we have it notated now is remove and reset, or protect and reset, basically, so that it's not damaged during construction. We have the inverts marked on there. Mike, I have a question for you. Where that pipe is set, is where the inlet of the pipe, is it flush with the bottom of your, the bottom of the low point in your backyard? Or would you say it's raised up a little bit?
No,
Yes,
it's
Mr. David.
not.
Yeah.
It needs to go deeper.
Okay.
So I will talk real quick from DR's. Sorry, Kristen, you want to talk?
No, I did want to make sure that we're not concluded yet before I move on to the next person who's waiting to speak. So go right ahead, Mr. Gould.
I do think this is something we can continue to investigate. As Chris said, I think DR is happy to take a look at that, as well as the rest of the project team. We are trying to figure out how to manage some of the stormwater on site, realizing that we are in a pretty low flat area. The stream is starting to get to the lower flatter area of before it dumps into the Ponset. And again, we can assure you, like Chris said and Sarah said, we can assure you that we've definitely sized the stream channel and everything like that to really handle any storm capacity. The modeling has definitely done that. I think this is something we should talk a little bit more about. I mean, I'm happy to talk a little bit more about seeing how we can, if we're definitely right now, we're just kind of trying to protect those pipes and leave them and make sure that the integrity is not compromised at all. But if there's something that we could do while we're there, if it's something we can work in the project reasonably, I think we can talk a little bit more. I don't know if this is, if maybe offline or something like that. We're happy to talk to you a little more.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gould.
I would love, I really need the problem resolved.
Yeah, I mean, I can't promise you that we're going to resolve all your stormwater issues on your property.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said I can't promise we're going to resolve all your stormwater issues on your property, but we can definitely see if it's something that can be reasonably done within the project scope to talk to you a little bit more, look at what it's going on, and see what we can do.
Okay,
Well,
thank you, Mr. Gould.
The reason why the water is backing up into my backyard is because of the stone roadway that I don't know who put, the town put it in, which virtually made a dam. So, I mean, I just wanted a good sized pipe there, and I just don't want to have to dig it out every month. That's all I'm looking for.
Thank you, Mr. David.
Other than that, I just got one other quick question about, is there any plans for landscaping in that area?
Kristen, maybe I could try to address both of those. I'll make one more comment on the previous question, and I can address the landscaping also.
Yes, please. Thank you.
A couple of notes, Mr. David. Also, I want to keep in mind, with the dam gone, the water levels that you see now in the pond will be lower during most flows. So when the river is flowing with the dam out, the water level will be lower. And so there'll be more of a gradient of more of a slope from that pipe down to the stream. So it may not get as pooled as frequently as it does now that you're talking about. So just keep that in mind. In terms of the landscaping, within the riparian area, the area of the river and adjacent to the river, there's the plantings that Sarah brought up earlier that will go in there. In terms of the long-term maintenance of the path or the sewer easement, I'd have to defer to Chris or town representatives there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nelson. I'd like to give Mr. Nicolasi a chance to speak. I know he's been waiting, and so I appreciate your efforts to address Mr. David's questions. Mr. Nicolasi, did you have something you'd like to contribute?
Well, Nick just kind of covered it a little bit, but anytime it rains, the output is not as good as the input. Much more volume comes in that then goes out, and that's why it rises up. And if it's improved by Nick's plan, that's good, but you have to be mindful of how much comes in as compared to what goes out. And that's one of the reasons why it's backing up. And that was my comment for that. I have other comments, but and my wife has a comment too.
I was just going to say that with all the storms that we've had this year, I mean, we've had a full pond multiple times with a water as high as it ever went. So it's been all the vegetation that's in that area has been totally covered, and it lasts for a couple of days. So I'm not surprised that the Davids don't get the drainage, because I'm concerned about how much water comes in. I prefer to have it be a pond, but they already know that. Anyway, there's a lot of water that comes.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you both for your comments, and thank you both for expressing your concerns. And I hear that they are echoed. There is another speaker here, I believe. Yes, Ms. Ramirez.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for inviting us. And my husband and I were looking forward to see the finished product. We purchased this house about 18 months ago, and the dam is right on our property. I do echo the Davids regarding the flow of the stream when there's there's a big storm like the last one that flooded Norwell Hospital. And I think that I took a video and I sent it to Chris so he can understand like the impact of the amount of water that comes down. A couple of concerns, and I've echoed this in our previous meeting, the corrosion. Like there's trees like right in the middle of the brook. And there's a lot of corrosion, like we can tell because when we purchased the house, there used to be, lights, and now they're down in the river. So it is corroding due to the amount of water that comes in because there's two streams coming in. So that's one of our concerns. And I know that the layout and the design of the stream is going to be pushed away from our property, which is great. So that, I just wanted to, bring that up. The second thing also is that partly, I'm glad that, you brought up the fact that certain, there was a couple plants or vegetation that might be prone to diseases and stuff like that. There's a lot of mosquitoes here, so is that going to create more influx of mosquitoes, with that type of vegetation, or is there something? I mean, it is what it is because we live like right next to a brook. Is there someone that can answer that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to
Thank you.
answer
Yeah,
that.
that's very helpful.
So mosquitoes love standing water and not water that's not flowing. So by creating a more stream and fast moving stream area, you're really not going to get the kind of mosquito habitat that currently is there, especially down at your end of the pond where the water is really just sits there, doesn't really flow. So it should help with that. In terms of vegetation affecting the mosquitoes, I'm not aware of certain plants that breed mosquitoes more than others. So I don't think that's really something that's going to influence it one way or the other. But I would say that getting the water moving in more of a stream rather than a pond is definitely going to help with mosquitoes.
Yeah, one thing I'll say in addition to that too is having a more functioning ecosystem that has, your fish and other things there to predate on some of those things is also going to benefit on that.
I really think,
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Ramirez, finish your thought, and then Mr. Nicolasi, you can go.
So what's the timeline? I know that due to COVID, I know that, the whole process of this project is to, fundraising and stuff like that. And I'm not sure due to COVID, it has been set back a bit, but, what's the timeline of the project? Is this something that's going to happen this year? It's just going to happen next year? It just because I'm afraid that there might not be a couple trees back there, those big trees.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're aiming to remove the dam this year. So we're hoping to get the grant that would fund the actual construction of it in the spring. And then it's really just a matter of how fast can we get the contractor going and get them out there. So I would anticipate, I think we're looking at fall, early winter as being a potential time.
Yeah, and I will say that we do have, just to add to what Chris said, I totally agree with what you just said, but also just add that we do have some funding through the NRD settlement funds that he mentioned earlier that's actually helping fund the project, as well as DER funds that we're putting towards this project as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hirsch, and thank you, Mr. Gould. Mr. Nicolasi, did you have another comment to make?
yes, I do. I really think that we should be consulting the Norfolk County Mosquito Control a little bit at least on this project. I mean, they might have input that could be helpful.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've been working.
Your job is to keep running water running. And the reason we have mosquitoes is because we have the stagnant, slightly wet land that never dries. And it becomes a wetland that wasn't supposed to be there. It's flowing like when the brook is reconstructed, that'll be great. But I still think that at least an opinion from them should be thought about. Yeah. Solicit.
Thank you, Mr. Nicolasi. And thank you, Ms. Ramirez, that you introduced this idea, and it certainly is something that needs to be further addressed. Mr. David, did you have another comment to make?
I just wanted to know, so for further discussion about that drainage pipe, who would be my contact person on that?
You can contact me if you'd like.
All right, Chris.
Yeah, so
yeah, because my main concern is not the overflow of the brook, it's the runoff of the rain runoff from the entire hill.
From your yard, yeah.
Where it all used to come down to the bottom and go into the pond. And now that you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I remember that meeting when we had at Danielle's house way back when, and you told me about that. So, yeah, I've definitely kept that in the back of my mind. And my email has changed now because I have a new job. So it's just my name here. So it's just Chris Hirsch at mass.gov. And yeah, I'm happy to, look at this. We can go out there and look at it again with you and keep the conversation going for sure.
Mr. Hirsch, if you're savvy enough, could you please put that in the chat box?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Did someone else have a final comment before we begin to wrap up this very rich discussion?
So, one last quick thing. We did meet out there with mosquito control a couple times, just so everybody knows we have talked to them.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nicolasi, did you have one more thing to add? Oh, I'm sorry, sir. You're not. We can't hear you.
I wanted to mention that there are several trees that are indigenous to this area that are not subject to disease. Like, for example, our are very tall tulip trees that we have, which are great for that. And it's not disease prone. And there's maple here. And there's several other trees that, besides those that are susceptible, that we could use.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ramirez, did you have a final comment that you wanted to make? No? And Mr. David?
So the town came and redid that whole road, okay? They just came back there a couple of years ago and just mulched everything and just made this mound to make a road. So is the town actually gonna be in on this so that they've created, in essence, these two bodies of water. Are they going to help facilitate getting rid of what they've put in the middle to make this not happen any longer?
That's a really good question. I think it's a good time to turn it over to Ms. Jones as well, and just sort of talk about to what extent, and Peter Bamber as well. Obviously, you can speak to this, what the conservation's involvement will be as well. So, Mr. Bamber, why don't we start with you, and then we can go over to Holly. Sorry, I can't hear you. I'm not sure if anyone else can.
Sorry, I have two mute buttons.
Okay, all right.
That's an existing project that was put in by the town, and you would be best to bring that up with Mark Ryan. Your question about modifying that mulched area that you're referring to on that road, because that was put in separately. It was really, that road had nothing to do with this project, is really what I'm trying to say. So this is focused just on creating the river again, whereas frankly, if I was you, I would contact Mark Ryan at the DPW, because he's in charge of engineering and the DPW, and see if they can help you with that.
Yep, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. So, Ms. Jones, is there anything that you'd like to offer by way of summation?
I don't have too much to offer except to echo Ms. Miller's comments that this is quite an incredible project to start as a conservation agent and come in on the middle of and see all of the hard work and input that's already gone into this. And I'm very excited for this project to be happening in Norwood on Conservation Commission land, and to work with you all on it moving forward. It sounds like there are a few suggested edits to the plan, so it might make sense for the hearing to be continued to a later date. Does that sound right to maybe Mr. Hirsch?
Yeah, so you're suggesting make a motion to continue?
Yeah, I'm not sure how long the applicant would need. Would you all like to continue to the next meeting, or would you need longer?
Sure, I guess I would ask what specific actions you would look for us to make.
Yeah, well, so comments that I heard from the commission today were, and from abutters, were potential edits to the planting plan. And then it sounded like a request for, or there might be potentially a change to that drainage system by Sumner Street.
It's currently blank. It's blank. Sarah Whiting, you said it wasn't filled in as yet or something?
At this time, the drainage structure associated with the David's property is, it's mentioned on the plans as like a remove and reset or protect during construction. So we're not planning, or we don't show on the plan currently any specific changes to it. It would be to restore in kind. But if that is something that you'd like to entertain, then I would, we'd be open to that, but I'll let the project partners decide.
Yeah, and I'll chime in on that. I'll chime in there real quick. I mean, it's something we're happy to continue to talk to the Davids about, as well as the town. It's not something that's currently in the scope with Interfluve, or it's, you know, in the project details, like what we're planning to accomplish. But, you know, once again, we always want to be good partners, and we're happy to work with. I mean, as somebody mentioned earlier, this could be something also too that could be addressed through the town, working with engineering DPW department as well. But we're happy to continue to discuss those things, but it's not part of like our engineering and design plans and what we're planning on doing at this time. So just I want to make sure we make that clear. Yeah. As far as the edits to the planting plan, I think that could be done pretty easily. It would really just be changing a few species out if that's the case. We've also openly said to the adjacent landowners that we're in, as well as the town, that we're willing to entertain different planting species and ideas as we move through to finalize some of those planting plans. You know, it's something that we obviously, I know I'm not speaking, the Interfluve has their restoration specialists that really come up with these planting plans, but it's not something that's set in stone. So just want to make sure that we're, you know that we're opened up to that all the way through design and even up to construction.
Thank you. So, so Ms. Jones, is there a motion then that's needed to close the hearing?
Well, the commission could choose to close the hearing or to continue it in anticipation of revised plans. I think I'm a little confused about the direction of the stormwater, since we heard from Mr. Hirsch that he was going to you know, go and look at it and meet with the Davids, and now we're hearing from Mr. Gould that that is maybe not within the scope of what's being proposed.
So I just want to be, I guess what I can clarify that is that happy to go, and I see the Davids keep on raising their hands, but I guess what I'd say is we're happy to talk to people, try and see if there's anything we can do. Also, as we're working with the town as a partner on this project, happy to figure out anything we can do, but it's not specifically in this plan. It's not in the NOI. It's not something that not in our plans. It's something we're basically doing as good partners with NEPRA, town, DR, and all the other DP, you know, et cetera, partners, is that we're happy to try and see what we can do as a holistic fix to some of these problems. But again, we're really doing a dam removal.
Well, Joe, just to butt in, that's why I was asking, because I need to know who's taking, who to talk to, you know, and also I want to know. So if it is Norwood, I'll talk to Norwood Engineering, but maybe they should, they're going to have to look up with you guys to know when to do this project.
It's the town of Norwood. You'd want to talk to the town, the head of the DPW is who you want to talk to about it.
Is that something you could put in the chat box as well, so he can have access to that information?
Okay, just as long as, because earlier when I voiced my concerns, everybody was like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll make notes of that. And now everybody's backing off of it. So I just want to make sure I talk to the right person, and we can just, it's just a pipe. And I want the end of the pipe, the outflow of the pipe to remain debris and free of growth. And I don't know if you could put crushed stone, if you guys are allowed to even do something like that in that area. So it's just something I want to discuss and try to resolve.
Yeah. Thank you. I think Mr. Gould and Mr. Bamber have done a really good job both of trying to help reshape the conversation, because you're right, Mr. David, you need something to be addressed, and you need it to be addressed quickly, but it sounds like it's not within the scope of this particular project. So we need to try to find you the resources within the town so that you can get that addressed. Mr. Bamber, were you able to share that information in the chat? Okay, so if you check the chat, you should be able to find information on who to contact within the town. But overall, it sounds like this project is going to move forward in a positive way. A lot of issues that residents have been facing in this area, you know, and there it certainly is more to be discussed. However, since it's not within the scope of the project, as determined by Mr. Gold and Mr. Hirsch. Ms. Jones, would you say that then it's time to close the hearing?
I would say that I would suggest continuing it if the commission wants
Okay.
to be able to get more information, or the commission could choose to close the hearing tonight.
Okay. So,
but if we
so
want
we can
revisions,
address the conservation.
then we should continue it.
Right, of course. Okay. Does anyone on the Conservation Commission want to offer an opinion, whether they'd like to, whether they have specific things that they think necessitate a continuation?
I don't have anything.
Yeah. Ms. Miller?
Just to clarify, so it sounded like potential modifications to the planting plan would be the only thing that would be revised if we were to continue this until the next meeting, for example, correct? Or is that something that could, because I think there's also a statement made that the planting plan could be, kind of revised continuously as the project continues to be developed. So might it make sense to approve the project now with the understanding that the planting plan might continue to evolve as the project continues to be developed?
I like that interpretation.
Yes.
Clearly, Mr. Nelson likes that interpretation. I think we should get those recommendations over to Mr. Hirsch, and I think they should be reviewed and applied where necessary to the vegetation plan. And so, Ms. Rockland, if you have suggestions, if members of the community have suggestions about what kinds of vegetation they'd like to see in there, what kinds of vegetation they think the area would best support, then Mr. Hirsch's email address is also in the chat box, and you can use that to send your suggestions. Does it make sense to CC you, Holly, on those communications so you can also be aware of what communications are going to Mr. Hirsch?
Yeah, that sounds good. I will put my email in the chat as well.
Yeah. The multifunctional meeting today.
norwoodma.gov for the benefit.
Okay, and yes, thank you. And so we just need someone to make the motion, correct? To support the advancement?
Yeah, so someone could motion to close the public hearing and take, I don't have an order of conditions prepared for this project, so you may want to take the order of conditions under advisement to be approved at the next meeting.
Okay, that is a lot to articulate. How can I consolidate that pretty seamlessly here? Go ahead, Mr. Bamber, you're very good at this.
I make the motion to close the hearing and move forward with the project and take under advisement the order of conditions at our next meeting.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, we're going to go through to determine who is in favor. We're going to start with myself, Christy Fizio. Oh, yes, we didn't get a second.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Miller, second. So as I was saying, we'll go through our commission members, starting with Chris Capizio. Chris Capizio, aye. I'm in favor. Next is Peter Bamber.
Aye.
John Gear.
Aye.
Heather Miller.
Aye.
Carly Rockland. Aye. And Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Hi. Okay. Thank you very much. That is confirmed. We appreciate everyone coming out tonight. Appreciate the rich discussion, very detailed, and also that you're taking time out of your evening to be here to advocate for yourself and advocate for what you think is best for the town. So very much appreciated. And with that, for those of you who are not part of the commission, you can have a great evening, and we'll move on to our next order of business.
Thank you so much.
Very
Have a
much.
good evening.
Thank you.
Almost there. Right. So Conservation Commission business, we've already done the ratification, so we're all set with that. So I guess we're just going to move right on to the conservation agents report.
Okay. I think the most exciting thing from the Conservation Office is continues to be the St. Street lot, which proposals are due on the 11th for that. So we'll have them before the next meeting and I'll have news about that. We also finally just got the conservation restriction ratified, or not ratified. It's all set and ready to be signed by you all, which will be a bit of a logistical hurdle, but it's ready to go. And the other, I guess, news from Town Hall is that we are sort of soft closed right now, and employees are being encouraged to work from home as much as possible. So I haven't been in this week and I won't be in until Friday, when I've sort of smushed all of my site visits together. And so that was one of my other items on the agenda, was just to discuss with you all the best way to get signatures. That's actually next. So I wanted to see if folks felt like,
Yeah, can we sign electronically? Like, can we sign a PDF and return it to you and just cycle it through?
Yeah, there's an application that does that, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can do it right in Adobe. So
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Adobe does it,
Yeah.
DocuSign does it.
Yeah, DocuSign,
yeah. The only issue I had with that in Uxbridge was that the registry wouldn't accept electronic signatures. I'm not sure if that's the same for the Norfolk Registry of Deeds. So for things that do need to be,
I think they passed something during COVID to allow electronic signatures, but I'd have to check for sure,
Yeah, they did, and then each registry kind of made up its own rules.
Yeah.
So they're
Not
allowed
surprised.
to accept them, but they're not required to. So I'll find out about that. One suggestion that I had was maybe just mailing everyone signature pages.
Yeah.
I see some nods.
Could do that.
So maybe just a combination of all of those things. For the conservation restriction, your signatures have to be notarized, which means you have to come into town hall, and the clerk luckily is a notary who can witness that. So we'll just see, I guess, how soon we can get that done and do our best with it.
Can we go to like a local bank, or must it be town hall? Like, can we just go to a notary? Yeah, we can just, okay.
Yeah, I guess I could email out an electronic version of the signature page, or of the whole document, I guess would be better. And then you could take it to a bank on your own if you want to do that.
Okay. I did find it amusing. This is sort of unrelated, but related. I found it amusing in your most recent email when you stated that the document was very long, and then I checked the document and it was 456 pages. That was more than very long. It was, you probably should have said a Dostoevsky-esque document that you were sending.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we need to vote to approve the minutes. Is that correct? That's the is that the next on our agenda? The next item?
That is, and Ms. McClellan was really great at getting me the minutes, and I actually did not get them all out to you in time, so I'm hoping that you can pass this over and approve them at the next meeting.
Sure. Okay, great. Yes. And hello to Lori from me, because I haven't met her yet. I think she must have been at the last meeting when I wasn't able to join. So hello, Lori. Welcome to the commission. So I guess that takes, oh, I can't, Lori, I can't hear you. Can anyone else hear her? No. And they were just letting you talk. Yeah. All right. Well, So I guess we're getting close to adjournment, yes? Okay, does anyone want to make a motion to adjourn? Is there anything else that anyone would like to bring up
Motion to
beforehand?
adjourn.
Oh, okay, there it is. Anyone like to second? Almost. You almost got it, Catherine. I didn't hear it.
I second. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor, starting with Chris, aye. Let's see, Peter Bamber,
Aye.
John Gear,
Aye.
Heather Miller,
Aye.
Carly Rockland,
Aye.
and Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Okay, thank you guys. Have a great night. Appreciate you being
Thanks,
patient
guys.
with me.